All right, welcome back to the podcast. Your host, Noel Arneson. Today we're going to be talking about the Canucks trade deadline review and what I think of the trades the Canucks made, and things like failing to trade Bluger and Kane as well. So I'll just start with Myers obviously got traded to Dallas for 2027 second round pick and 2029 fourth round pick. Myers 50% retained by the Canucks. Um, Honestly, I think it was a really good deal for the Canucks. Yeah, you get more draft capital, which the Canucks need a lot of. I don't have a problem retaining that because there's only one season left, and it's not like the Canucks will be competitive next year as well. Um, could they have gone more? I don't think so. Uh, Myers also had the no move clause, so there was teams like we heard Detroit who did try to trade for him. Obviously, he wanted to see if there's any offers. He's also from Dallas, or from Texas, so there's also that part as well. But overall, they get two picks. A second is really big, but um, you also think about the leadership aspect of it. Myers was a big vocal guy in that room. Obviously, he wore a letter, but at the end of the day, the Canucks need picks over a 36-year-old right shot defenseman. I'm sure he also, next year's the last year with his contract. He obviously wants to win a cup. That's not happening with the Canucks anytime soon. But overall, that trade, I'd say it, the letter grade would be an A for the Canucks. But they definitely, a 2029 fourth is at far away. I would prefer it was even a 26 this year fourth or next year's, but it's still a pick at the end of the day, and there's still a second round pick involved. Next, obviously, Connor Garland to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2028 second and a 2026 third round pick. I think a lot of people thought that Garland would fetch a first round pick, but obviously the Canucks' best offer was the Blue Jackets. You saw other people like Nicholas Waugh go for first, so you do question whether or not that they could have. But Garland also, you have to take into consideration Garland signed a 6x6 contract with the Canucks in the summer. He has a no move clause that kicks in next year. He's 36 or 30 years old. He'll be 36 years old by the time that deal expires. So you have to think, or teams thinking about, oh, he has he has these things that it might be hard to flip him if we don't do well. Or do we want to have a 6-year contract with a guy who hasn't really done that well at all this year? So I think it was good for the Canucks to get rid of that contract before the no move clause kicks in, and it's hard to move him. It's because he can limit where he wants to go next year, where the Canucks could have traded him to any team at this deadline. And so usually when you have control of when the team has control of where they can trade him, you get a better pick than when the player um, gets to choose, such as that Panarin trade, where Panarin said he wanted to go to the Kings. Well, it's either the Rangers keep him or they get something for him. And for that reason, it's better to get rid of him now. But you do wonder, why did the Canucks sign him to a 6x6 extension in the summer if they were just going to trade him at this deadline? Obviously, they thought that Garland was Hughes' best man, or godfather, whatever it is. Like, Garland and Hughes are really good friends, so I think they were thinking signing Garland would convince Quinn to stay, but obviously that didn't end up working out. So now you're stuck with some contracts that you that don't fit the timeline. They said, I believe Alvin said that one of the things is Garland and a couple other players don't match the Canucks timeline for this core because he's 30, but they think guys like Marcus Pettersson and Philip Hronek do when they're 29 and 30 as well. So do I think that the Canucks should have traded players such as Marcus Pettersson and Philip Hronek as well. Marcus Pettersson, I think, I think that would have probably been a good trade as well to get rid of. Philip Hronek, you don't want to. You saw the Flames nuke their entire right side of their defense core yesterday, so I don't think you want to necessarily do what the Flames did, even though they got lots of draft capital for their players. But you want that leadership. He could end up. He's most likely gonna be the Canucks' next captain next year. So you want that leadership. You just want to put him with guys like Bouillon and um, DPD, Willander, just so you don't want those young guys playing 20 minutes a night and just getting ran through by the league's top players because they won't develop properly when you do that. You need someone there to teach them the ropes and all that stuff. So I don't actually have a problem with them not moving Hronek necessarily. I think it would definitely been interesting to see what was out there for trades for him because I do definitely think he can get a haul, but I also don't think Hronek's value is going to decrease in the next couple years at all. His contract actually gets better year by year as it goes on. So even in 3 years, if his point total is not where it is this year or last year, he's still going to be worth a decent amount because his contract isn't that bad. Um, but the next trade, obviously, the Canucks had a couple AHL affiliate trades. First being Lucas Reichel to Boston for a 6th-round pick. The Canucks acquired Reichel for a 4th-round pick, so they pretty much only had him up with the Canucks for a couple games, like 10 max, I think. So they trade a 4th for a 6th, essentially, which I don't understand the point of. I guess you're trying to take a waiver, a flyer on a guy, but I honestly don't see the point in what was even acquiring him for. If they didn't even get him to play winger when he was with the Canucks, they tried to get him to play center. So I really think that they lost, even though they still recouped them for something. You still went from a 4th-round pick to a 6th-round pick for no reason for a guy you didn't even let play winger in his time with the Canucks. He wasn't able to crack Abbotsford's top line as well. So I just don't think it was worth even getting him to begin with in the first place. As far as David Kampf, the Washington for a 6 as well, I am happy that the Canucks got rid of David Kampf. I think there was no reason, like he was taking up a spot. I personally think that Aatu Ratu should have been in the lineup every night over Kampf, especially I believe Ratu went 6 for 1 in the faceoff dot last night, or 8 for 1, one of them, which and what he has barely played since the Olympic break. So the Canucks essentially paid $500,000 for a 6th-round pick for Kampf. I do like that they got something for him because they acquired him for nothing. So to get something for him is really big. But I'm more happy for the fact that Aatu Ratu can finally, hopefully, be in the lineup night in, night out, because obviously he was a big part of that Horvat trade, and I just don't know why he wasn't getting to play when all the metrics show. Even the eye test shows for Ratu that he is a decent player, especially on the third line as a center. And Tank Commander Foot obviously thinks that Camp was a better player somehow, when he's not. But at the end of the day, you still got something for nothing. So I'm happy with that trade as well for the Canucks. Jet Wu to the Sharks for Jack Thompson. Just another affiliate trade. Jack Thompson is younger than Jet Wu, but again, why are we trading affiliate defensemen, especially considering the fact that Jack Thompson will probably also not really ever be up with the Canucks most likely. So I mean, yeah, I also understand Jet Wu never played a single game with the Canucks. I understand he never formally requested a trade, but I don't think, obviously he wasn't opposed to one. I think he wanted a fresh start somewhere to see if he could ever crack an NHL roster. So, and I am happy for. I used to be a pretty big Jet Wu guy back in the day. Back a couple years after he drafted, I always had high hopes that he would make the Canucks, but it never worked out, obviously. So I think a fresh start for him will be good. Um, Curtis Douglas claimed off waivers by the Canucks. 6'9", one of the tallest players in the league. He might. I've heard rumors that he might be in the lineup tonight for the Canucks, which is huge. Because you got replaced, even though he's a forward, you got to replace the Sizemeyer somehow. He has more fights this year than the rest of the Canucks roster combined. I think he has 29 games played. He has over 90 minutes of penalty minutes. I believe he has 4 or 5 fights in those games. You got, and he's 26 years old, so he's not young, but he's not on the older side. So he's really big for once you start getting these prospects as well. You already have younger prospects, but you need someone who's gonna fight for them, stick up for when, if William gets cheap shot or something. You want someone there to step in and let our teams know, hey, you can't do that to our top guys. So I'm really looking forward to the size and physicality of Douglas. I, I think it's, claiming him off waivers, you're not risking anything. If not, he'll be a good guy in Abbotsford. But I do believe he's supposed to make his Canucks debut tonight. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the blue and white. Now, in terms of Canucks trades, they failed to trade Blueger and Kane. I'm pretty disappointed in both those. I was really hoping that they were going to be able to get rid of Blueger, because I think that Blueger could have gone a couple draft picks as well. I don't see why a third line center like him isn't able to fetch a second round pick. There's other players at this deadline that are comparable players to Blueger who got firsts, who got seconds. Alvin claims that there was no market, but I honestly, I don't see that. I think that and now the report is that they're gonna try and re-sign Blucher, which I don't have a problem with Blucher as a player. I think he's a decent player, but you also have to try and get draft capital, and when you're not when you have someone like that who's a UFA on expiring deal and you're not able to trade them at the deadline, that just says something. I've heard rumors that Alvin doesn't necessarily have connections around the league as good as some of the other GMs and whatnot. I've heard that due to that, Alvin has gotten lowballed a lot, and that obviously makes it tougher for him. But at the end of the day, especially Bluger, he's a good third line center. He can play fourth line center on a lot of teams. I'm sure he could play winger. So I was hoping that even if he was able to get, a second round pick or a third round pick, that would have been good. And as far as Kane goes, uh, we were supposed to believe that there was, I heard like they're saying, oh, there's no market for Kane. And then all of a sudden people are saying, oh, no, there is. So obviously there was no market there forever. You can't tell me that there wasn't someone willing to give, like, even for Bluger, you can't tell me that Bluger Kane, someone didn't offer a 6th round pick for either of those guys. And so it's really, I was hoping Kane was gonna get traded as well, because he's just taking up a spot, and I know a lot of Canucks fans are unhappy with him. They want him traded, they want him gone. So it's just he was one of the guys that I think everyone, and the Canucks took him because if they're in a playoff spot, okay, great, Kane's contributing. But one of the whole points of the trade was, oh well, if we're not in a playoff spot, then we can at least flip Kane. And so you acquired him for a fourth round pick, and then you're not even able to trade him at the deadline the following season. And uh, like he's not done that well on offense. So it's just it's hard to believe that you couldn't get even a 6th round pick for Kane, and they left their last retention spot open, so they could have retained 50% on Kane. And you're telling me if you don't retain 50% on Kane, some playoff teams not wanting to trade from just for the physicality. So it just kind of blows my mind in that aspect. I also heard reports that the Tampa Bay Lightning were interested in Linus Karlsson. I think Karlsson he's actually showed really well this year with the Canucks. I think he has decent speed. He has a heck of a shot. We've seen a couple times he's been able to snipe the puck top corner. I wouldn't have been mad with a trade. It depends on what you can get. But I also think I believe Karlsson is 26 as well. So he's just kind of breaking out this year. So I wouldn't necessarily hate a trade, but I'm not gonna complain that I didn't get traded because I do think he has a spot on this Canucks roster and has shown flashes, and I think he could be valuable player in the next couple of years for the Canucks. But overall, um, I wouldn't say it was the best deadline for the Canucks, but I think it was better than most people are making out to be. Obviously, there's a lot of people who wish that players like Besser and DeBrusk, even Pedersen, got traded. But it's also one of the problems with the Canucks is that every single player is currently underperforming, right? Pedersen's underperforming, Besser's underperforming, DeBrusk is underperforming. So it's hard to trade players who are all on down years last year and this year, especially at their price points. You know, Pedersen's at 11.6 million, Besser's at 8 million or whatever it is. It's hard. It's hard for teams to give up um, draft assets and um, promising, uh, you know, prospects and stuff to the Canucks for players who aren't. You don't know if they're going to be able to turn it around or not, and so that's one of the issues. I mean, I think players like DeBrusk and Besser will definitely get revisited at on draft day. Um, we'll see at the draft if they're able to trade them and what they're able to work out then and in the summer. But obviously, there wasn't any market for them because if there was, I'm sure there would have been more reports on that. But from what Rick Dollywall said, is that there was no there was nothing really surrounding any of those players. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think of the Canucks trade deadline, the moves they made. And yeah, let me know in the comments section, and I will see you guys soon.